My name is Mitch Benner, and we started this podcast to remove the stigma around sobriety from addiction.
My name is Aaron Nelson. Through our stories and the stories of our guests, we hope to help you find a new path.
Honestly, this morning I'm like, man, he's either going to think we're crazy or...
I think you're crazy, but I think it's impressive too.
Yes. All right, I love it. Crazy is what we need.
Yeah, crazy is acceptable.
Okay, we have a super special guest with us today. His name is Matt Scoletti. And Matt, you are from Pittsburgh? Correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so Matt has a wild story, but these days, Matt is a 2-time world record holder, a 5-time physique bodybuilding champion. He was featured in Runner's World magazine. He was a 40 under 40 recipient. Competed in American Ninja Warrior. Was this the televised version?
It was, yeah. And we can get into that story because it has to do with what we're talking about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it. He is the world's toughest mutter competitor, Distinguished Toastmaster Award recipient. I had to look this up because I'm like, what is that? Toastmaster?
So we can get into that too, but Toastmasters changed my life. Yeah. It's a public speaking and leadership organization, and I couldn't speak for anything for years and years, and they really helped me find my voice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's I'm still a part of it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Because I actually Googled it and looked into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's really cool.
It's so good.
Yeah,
they have in-person and virtual meetings. Yeah, it's really good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So this one I had to look up too. Navy SEALs Kokoro 61 graduate.
Yeah.
So right now they have the Kokoro 50 going on. Is that?
Yeah.
I Googled it.
Oh, did you? Yeah. So it's basically like 55 hours of training with ex-Navy SEALs. And this is actually, that's what I'm wearing today. It's from the event. And you basically go in and it's like a simulated Hell Week, half the length of it. But they have they created it to help future SEALs get into the Navy SEALs.
Gotcha.
So it's like a mix of civilians who want to see if they can hang and future SEAls. It was the craziest, wild experience I've ever been a part of.
Very
it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're about halfway through his rap sheet here. So he was a contestant on America's Funniest Home Videos, 2x 100-mile ultra marathon finisher. I want to highlight this too. You also are an author, a professional speaker, a philanthropist, and you have your podcast, Average to Savage.
Yeah, you guys are going to be on it, by the way.
I'm
putting it out there
excited.
right now. Yeah,
awesome.
It's going to happen.
And then you guys are 277 episodes in.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. I think it's a little, I think it's right around there. Yeah, once a week for a while, yeah.
So how long have you guys been rolling?
We've been doing it for, actually it used to be every other week in the beginning, and now it's weekly.
Okay.
I want to say 6 years maybe? Yeah.
And are you on every episode?
I'm on every episode, so now I do it where it's an interview twice a month, and then just me twice a month.
Gotcha.
So mine alone are normally like 8 to 15 minutes, and then interviews are like 30 to 45.
Nice.
So I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So anyways, I just want to welcome Matt Scoletti for taking the time out of his super busy life to sit down with us and just share a story. So I'm Mitch Benner, and I'm here with Aaron Nelson.
Yep.
And we're going to get into Matt's story.
I'm in. I'm excited.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, too, for everybody's listening. Like, I just met you Saturday.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Yeah, Mandy sold you out and said that you're going to be somewhere, so I just incognito popped in. And,
it was awesome.
But it was awesome that you, made the time to come get us right before you take off, so thanks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm honored to be here. This is a topic I'm very passionate about, just like you guys.
Yeah. So, dude, we'll start with your story. Where are you from? Where does Matt Scoletti start?
Yeah, so I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and born and raised there. My story is growing up, I was like the straight A student who wanted to do really well in school. Mm-hmm. I had basically a lot going for me, or so it looked like in high school. I was captain of the basketball team, dating the head cheerleader. Like, it just seemed like straight A student. Everything was going like your stereotypical great high school life. And I loved it. I loved high school. Then I went off to college down at University of Richmond in Virginia. And I think I just got exposed to partying and going out. And it was just something that, you talk about and you hear everyone say college is going to be the best 4 years of your life. And this is going to be so. As soon as my parents dropped me off, I went back to my dorm room. And we actually this didn't help either. I'm convinced we were one of the 4 last students accepted into school because they put us in a converted lounge room.
Like
we
the
didn't
closet.
even have like a regular dorm room, and there's 4 of us. Normally you'd have 2, and we were all partiers.
Yeah.
So, and I loved the social part, and I think the issue for me was, and I'm sure we'll get into it, I liked how I felt. I liked who I was becoming. I liked meeting all the girls, and I could just say whatever I wanted because I had alcohol in me.
Right.
And it just became a slippery slope where it was basically on the weekends freshman year I was drinking. Then it was 4 or 5 nights a week sophomore year, almost every day senior year.
Yeah.
So it just kept getting more and more and more. And then I graduated, and I barely graduated. There was times senior year where I thought, I'm not going to make it. Like I'm not. I was just telling somebody yesterday at the race. I said I think I was in the bottom 1% of the graduates because it was a struggle, and I know it was my habits were a big reason why. But I told myself I'll get a job out of college, and then I'll be sober and like turn things around because I'll be an adult then.
Right.
Not realizing the hold that it had on me,
Yeah.
and it just became wrapped into my whole identity of I'm the party guy. I'm the guy that you want to be around if you're throwing a party. I'm going to bring more people, and I'm going to be loud and dance and be crazy. And then I couldn't do it sober. Like I remember going out once sober, and I'm like terrified. Like, what do I do now?
Yeah, totally.
So I would either start drinking heavily or leave. And it just, I couldn't believe the hold that it had. And I think I was in denial of that for so long. And I was one that, Aaron and I were talking about this, I suffered in silence. I didn't tell anybody what was going on because I was way too scared. What if now I have a job in business? What if I say I'm struggling with alcohol? Am I going to get judged? Am I going to get fired? Like what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I finally hit my rock bottom the first time in 2011. And I don't know if you wanted to go anywhere else before I tell you that story, but
I kind of want to highlight a little bit of like maybe your backstory, and because the reason, so what I'm gathering, the reason you started drinking was just because it was fun.
That was it. Yeah.
And it was just the environment, and because a lot of people that we talk to, it's like there's something that happened, they're escaping some kind of pain or something like that. So that was not the case for you.
No, it wasn't. No, it's almost like I think about it looking back now. I didn't know how good I had it growing up either.
Right.
I just assumed this is my life. This is what everyone else's life is like.
Right.
Sunshine, rainbows, doing well in school,
right.
And that's not reality. So I almost have like a little bit of guilt for how well I was brought up, and not realizing how good I had it. And it just became, like now there's alcohol around. Like this is just what you do in college.
Yeah, and then it becomes, and it's funny because my story is very similar. Like I wasn't, I was kind of awkward as a kid. Like I didn't like talking to girls. It scared the crap out of me.
I didn't say I was awkward.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess.
No, I'm sure I was.
But I just I didn't like alcohol for me was that release, right? Like I could become somebody that I looked at. I was like, oh, that person's cool. And so that helped me become that person. So, 2011. Let's get into
2011, and we'll get into this. I think it's interesting as I look back at it because I kind of had 2 rock bottom moments. And the first one was I woke up a morning. It was after a Halloween party. It was like October 30th, 2011. Woke up on the floor of my living room in the house that I owned, which wasn't even abnormal. Like I would be the guy coming home hammered, lights on, TV blaring, and I would just lay on the floor and pass out. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this happened. You're laughing like this has happened to you before.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. My spot was people's front yards.
Oh, you'd be outside. I normally make it inside.
I was trying to get home from the bars.
A couple times I woke up. Oh
man!
This is funny.
Wait, no, I gotta hear the story.
I went to school in Greeley here, and we had outside the dorms. I had a puking tree. It was this big tree that it came down, and so you could go under there and no one would see you. And instead of getting sick in the dorms or a dorm room, I'd go and get sick there. And there'd be a few times where that's where I woke up.
Outside the puking tree.
It was mine though. It wasn't anybody else's. It was mine.
Oh, okay.
It was better.
Well, I mean, to that point, I used to order a pizza. This is part of what would tick me off. I would order a pizza when I would get home by myself.
Yeah.
and then I would pass out. And then they would always charge me like $10. And I would look at my statement the next morning. I'm like, I got to stop this. I'm going to charge $10. I don't even get to eat the pizza because they'd bring it over and I'd be passed out. They'd be knocking on the door. I didn't wake up. So I woke up this one morning. I woke up in the morning, like hungover as I normally did, staggered upstairs. It's like Sunday morning, 7 a.m., whatever. And I was just going to the bathroom and I was going to pass out again. And I looked in the mirror and it was almost like, I don't know if you have one of these moments where I had no intention of looking myself in the mirror and just staring, but I just stared. And it was almost like everything that happened up until that point in 2 seconds flashed through my brain. And I thought, what if I continue this life for 10 more years? Let's project out and see what that looks like. Yeah. I keep drinking like I am. I keep ruining relationships, friendships. I didn't even have any real friendships. And I figured there would be two outcomes. I would be in jail or dead. Yeah. That's it. And that was the moment where I thought, I have a serious problem. Yeah. I had been journaling, and this is kind of random. I've been journaling when I was hungover in the morning. And that same morning, I went into my bed where I had the journal on the nightstand, and I opened it up, and I read maybe 5 or 10 journal entries. They all sounded the same from the last 6 months. And I thought, if this journal went back 15 years, it would be the same thing. Like, it's Saturday morning. I feel horrible. I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay here. And I didn't want the next 10 years to be like that. Yeah. And I just thought, okay, now it was the realization that accountability, it's on me to change, because I was really good. I blamed everybody. I blamed my friends because they drank. Well, I chose my friends. I blamed my family because a lot of them would like wine. I blamed God. I blamed whoever I could except for myself. And it was that morning finally that I realized nobody's forcing me to drink. I'm the one doing it. Yeah. So that means I'm the one that can change this whole trajectory of my life. And it's so that's when I realized I had a problem. 2 weeks later, this is just by sheer chance, I was at a business meeting. The only non-business speaker is the one I went to, was a health and wellness expert. Yeah. His name's Chris Johnson. I'm still great friends with him. And he was speaking to a large group. I'm not one to listen to a speaker and then go run up and introduce myself. But I'm like, that's the only time I've ever done it. I'm like, I need to meet this guy. Like he struggled with, it wasn't sobriety, but it was overeating. And I'm like, well, we had an addiction. Yeah. So I rushed up to him and introduced myself. I'm like, Chris, I'm Matt Scoletti. I'm having this issue. Like, can you help me out? And he's like, I think he first thought this guy just launched off in his whole life story in 5 seconds. Why don't you just take a step back? Yeah. But then he said, I'll help you out. So he's basically mentored me. He won't admit this, but he helped save my life. Like, he's mentored me for whatever that's 13, 14 years. Yeah. And I didn't quit fully at that point. It wasn't until 2016, but I realized that I had a problem then, and I need to start making changes.
Yeah. So I was dude, you had that clarity of mind, even in the middle of your addiction, to look at yourself and just be like, all right, man, I'm done. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think it had to be God involved in some way, because it was just one of those moments that I'll never forget. And it was like, I felt so horrible, but then I felt so empowered because I can change. Yeah. And with the right people around me, with the right faith, like, I think anything's possible.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Was faith a part of your life growing up?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I grew up Catholic. I am Catholic. Okay. And it was a big part of my life. And I think prayer and God in general, like, I'm a believer that I couldn't have done that alone, making the change. Right. So the combination of God, prayer, meditation, and different people I was around, I think shifted the whole thing. Yeah. But faith is very important to me now too.
That's awesome. So when you were in that mirror, like, is that the last time you drank?
No.
Okay.
I struggled for another like 5 years. So I quote unquote stopped for like a year and a half. And that's when I started competing in physique competitions, and I started loving how that was feeling. And I thought I was done then. And what happened was, and this is in no way blaming this individual. I started dating somebody who would have wine here and there. Right. And I thought, I mean, she didn't have a problem, and I did. So I was, we were hanging out. She would have a glass or two. Everything was fine. And then there was a moment where I thought, what if I can just have, when we go away, what if I just have a little bit then? And that's how it started. And then it wasn't as bad as it was previously, but in like from 2014 to 2016, I started a little bit here and there. And then actually American Ninja Warrior, I'll share that story real quick because this was probably the most pain I've ever been in, especially in the public eye. So American Ninja Warrior, I got a call I submitted my video. This is in 2015, I think tail end of 2015. Submitted a video, American Ninja Warrior. I didn't think anything of it. It's a huge show. They're not going to get back to me. Right. They get back to me a couple months later. Hey, Matt, we want you to be on the show. We want you to run the course. And I'm like, first I said, how long do I have to train? Because I thought they were going to say like in 6 months we're recording. Right. They're like, you have about 10 days and then we're recording and then we're going to film in Pittsburgh. And I was like, so I went to this gym and was like trying to crash course my way into this. And like alcohol was still here and there, a part of my life at that point. And they decided to run the story of my sobriety. And like that was going to be, help for people and inspire people. And on the taping of the show, and I didn't come out and share this until like a year ago, I got hammered before they taped the show. Oh my God. And they have 250 athletes run the course. They only feature like 10. Yeah. They run the backstory. Yeah, awesome. It's awesome. So they run the backstory. So I'm sharing the backstory, sobriety, physique champion, all this different stuff. And I'm like, okay, then they record. I fell in the second obstacle. So I thought, well, they're not going to show me. Like there's 6 obstacles. I fell in the second one. So I go over to my parents' house and like we turn on the show because you don't know who's going to be featured. Yeah. I'm the first guy they feature. And they run this 2-minute segment about me talking about sobriety. Wow. And I'm hammered on the show and I'm watching it. And this is another thing where like I'm sure a lot of people looked at that and were like, oh my God, you're on American Ninja Warrior. Yeah. I'm looking at it like, I get goosebumps and emotional. Like I just lied to 8 million people. Yeah. It was the biggest fraud moment. And I had to act proud because nobody knew. Yeah. Like my ex-wife knew because she would we were the ones feeding each other drinks. Right. But that was it. And it was like one of those, I think it's one of those moments where I look at anybody and I say, there's somebody walking down the street, they get out of a nice car, they look like it's all together. We don't know what anybody's going through. That's so true. Until you really, unless you're that person, I don't think you know.
Well, and unpack that, because what year was that? That
was in 2015 as American Ninja Warrior.
So you held on to that for 8 years?
Yeah.
What did that do to your psyche? Obviously you've accomplished a lot of amazing things, but did that do something to your soul to holding on to that? Because for me, it's like when I'm dishonest about something or I know it, it's like this thing festers inside me.
Yeah, I think it did in the beginning, and then I was trying to. So I speak in a lot of schools, and a lot of times when they hear I've been on American Ninja Warrior, that's like the kids will listen. Yeah. Like that, now you have that, and I do like that because that helps me get some ears and then share the story. But I wasn't sharing the alcohol part. Right. I was just sharing. I'm getting a chance to quote unquote live my dream on this show, which was true, but I held out that part of it. Right. So yeah, when I would tell the story, and I even had one of my best friends, I'll never forget this. I told the story at his high school that he works at, and he told me afterwards, like the story didn't really hit the way that and he's very honest with me. Yeah. And I knew why. And I didn't tell him. Like now he knows now. I'm actually going down there to speak at the end of this month. But he didn't know, and I didn't feel comfortable sharing it. Yeah. So you have to hold it in and to share a story for so many years that I knew the punchline was never shared. Right. Yeah, it does. It just kind of sucks the soul out of you like a little bit each time. Totally. So sharing it was I think maybe the punchline of the whole thing is sharing it to what you guys are trying to do. Right. It was a release like I couldn't believe it.
And that's the thing I'm trying to highlight. It was a release for you.
Yeah, it was.
It's not, and that's the thing. It's like when you're holding on to this alcoholism, this addiction, this thing in your dark corner, right? Like it festers inside of you. It eats at you. And if you know that it's something that needs to be dealt with, then, it's just going to keep doing that. So that is crazy. That is a wild story. Let me ask you this. Why did you drink that day?
I think I drank because I didn't think I was prepared mentally to go out there and compete in front of millions of people watching.
Yeah. You're scared.
And Oh, I was terrified. Yeah. I was terrified.
Yeah.
So I think that was the other part. I went, they called me and said in 10 days we're going to record.
Yeah.
And then I went to this is kind of funny, but I went to this like American Ninja Warrior gym in Pittsburgh, and I realized how bad I was. And I'm like, well, how am I going to get through this?
Yeah.
I'm going to resort back to what I did before. If I drink enough where I barely even remember, well, then that's okay. Like, then I won't even really remember what happened. So, I mean, I remember acting weird after it. I mean, I fell in the water, and I was like, you can see it, like, now that you know the story, if you watch it, like, I'm so angry. And I wouldn't, if I was sober, I wouldn't be like overly angry. Like, I'm on a game show. Like, this is fun. Like, I should be angry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a wild story. But I'm glad to get it out in the open now. It feels good.
Let me ask you this: when you admitted it, what was the response? Like, what was the fear around that? Because like that's a pretty big thing to hold on to for a long time. And
Yeah,
I'm assuming that like, hey, if I tell people this, they're going to think I'm, whatever. Or was there fear around that? How was the response around that? Like,
yeah, there definitely was fear. One of my mentors, who was an amazing speaker, her name's Holly. I had about a week before I shared it. She was just asking me. She's helping me prep for a speech, and we were talking about different stories. And I was telling her about the American Ninja Warrior story, and she said, and finally, I don't know what happened that day. She's like, what's the root of this story?
Yeah.
And I blurted it out, and that was the first time I ever shared it. And there was a pause in the phone, and she's like, that's the story. Like, that's the part you're missing. Like, that people need to hear this, and I think you need to share this. And so I journaled about it. I thought about it, and then I put it out, I think, on Instagram, and I think I put a YouTube video out. And it's funny because I was talking to my fiance about this. Like, I think I'm at a stage, maybe the older I get, this is what happens, where I love encouraging other people and helping other people raise their level up. And that's why I speak and MC. But at the same time, I don't value somebody's opinion that I don't know at all, like on the internet.
Right.
So it was a combination. I just say that to set it up, where it was a combination when I shared it of like very inspiring, like, thank you for sharing this. Some people even said, I'm holding on to something similar. And then you also get the other side of like, how do we know this guy's not drunk doing this video? Like, you know what I mean? So you get both. So I'm like, but reading through it, I went through, and a lot of people I responded to and commented back that said something where it may have triggered something for them to share something they had been holding in.
Yeah.
So if I share a video and 100 people respond and 99 hate it and one says, thank you, that really helped, then it was worth it. Like, I'm in for that. So it felt good.
That's funny because I was talking to Aaron about this the other day around this podcast, man. Like, I have fear around releasing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're almost like painting a target on your back. You know what I mean? When you start to go into areas like this and do things like this. And, but, that's, I keep telling myself, I'm like, that's where courage comes in, and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
So that's really cool, man.
Well, on that note, though, that's what we're doing here, though. We're getting over that fear.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's scary to come out and admit that we have a problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, that was the hardest thing, was coming clean, at least for me. But I guess on that note for you, because you're the hero, not us today, but well, every guest is a hero, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's our YouTube. I'm giving you guys a lot of credit too. We overcame something tough.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's something that what I want people to listen to is, it is so scary. And I think a lot of people, when you're drinking, you're holding on to it because you're hiding it, right?
Oh yeah.
No one knows when you go out to the bar. I mean, you go up to the bar to order drinks for people. I don't know if you guys do this, but I get like 4 beers for every. Oh, I need 3 shots too, and then drink the shots and then come back to the beers.
I've done that.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you got to get your fill in.
Yep.
And no one knows
Nope.
how bad it really is except for you.
Yeah.
And so the second that, I mean, I want your take on it, but the second I was able to overcome that and say, especially to my wife, my dad too, was like, Dad, I'm going to share a quick story. So we were out at, oh my God, the place in Greeley everybody went to in the mall. It was like a country bar.
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
It was like, dude, like 50 Cent you call it or something crazy.
Yeah.
So Sunday nights you just get smashed. Anyway, I got all hammered and, I was already wasted before then. I was a manager at this restaurant, like drinking with the employees, and went all out. It was, anyway, called my dad. Like, I somehow wandered away. I had no idea where we had met people at their house. I have no idea where that was. I drove my car from our restaurant to the person's house that we met. No idea where that was, number one. Then we all rode to the bar. And then I wandered off and I was lost. Straight up lost in Greeley where I lived. 2 a.m, I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, I have no idea where I am. I need you to come get me. So how disorienting that is for your dad.
Oh,
Seriously.
yeah.
So anyway, that kind of sets it up. He came, got me, everything's fine. In the morning, I had to go to work, and he's like, "Where's your car?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." What do you mean?
Oh.
So we had to like drive around. I think it was over. It's totally embarrassing.
No.
Sorry, Bob. I love you. Thank you for that. But okay, so fast forward to getting sober, to have to come clean with all of that and like let people know how really bad it was. That felt so damn good afterwards.
Me too.
Yeah. You know what I mean? When you can finally be honest with yourself and then the people around you, which I think that speeds up the momentum of where we're at now.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
So was there something like that for you?
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. And for me, I wish, and I know we were talking to a few people the other day about this, and one young guy is being open about his struggles currently. And I wasn't strong enough to do that. Like I did the whole struggle. Like some people, not on my own, like Chris, my mentor was there. He knew some of it, but nobody knew all of it. Like I was holding that in. Yeah. And some people look back and they're like, "Oh, that's inspiring. You did it by yourself." And I say, "Oh, thank you." But I flip it around and I'm like, I wish I would have asked for help and told people during the struggle. Yeah. So I was telling somebody this the other day. It was Christmas Eve and I actually had written a book about the whole struggle. It's called The First 15. So for me, it was like 15-minute chunks. Like, can I stay sober for 15 minutes? And it started in the morning because I drank in the morning on the weekends. So I think it was Christmas Eve, and I had written the book out. I printed a Microsoft Word copy, and I handed it to my parents and my brother. And they didn't know nobody knew anything until they had the book in front of them, and they read the whole thing over the next few days. And then they said, we had no idea. And to your point, like people would see at a family party, I'd have one drink, but it would have 8 shots in it and like a little bit of Coke, and I'd just be sipping it. Mm-hmm. So it was, I did it without telling anybody. And to anybody listening that is struggling, I beg you not to do that because I really wish I would have had the strength and courage to share the story as it was happening. Because I think first off, I wouldn't have had a relapse or whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't have gone back to it if I'd have had people around me that would help me through. And I just think I wouldn't have struggled for 4 or 5 more years.
Yeah. Did people know that you were that bad?
No, nobody knew. And nobody knew also because I didn't tell them how bad it was. Like I had a friend group of like 4 guys that would go out all the time. And then in 2011, like I had this moment where I knew I had to make a change. I wish I would have just said, "Listen, guys, I'm struggling. I need to not be around for a while." I just faded out. Like I just responded. Like if they would text me, I'd respond like 9 hours later, like the next day, and just fade. And then they would just stop, reaching out, which was helpful because I didn't want to be around it. But I wish I just said, because they would have understood. They found out years later, like, "Oh, we didn't know you were struggling." Right. So I think it's to what you guys are doing, the stigma of being an alcoholic. I wish I would have just said, "I'm going through a tough time. I'm happy to be around you if you're not drinking, but if you're going to the bar, I can't be around. I'm too scared that I'm going to get back into it."
And I like that too, because I know for me, my support system was incredible. And I was the opposite, dude. I admitted it all from the very beginning.
I respect that so much. I wish I could have.
It was hard, but at the same time, like I had to bring other people into it because I could convince myself of anything. Like my impulse control is terrible. And if nobody else knew what I was going through and what I was trying to do, I wouldn't have made it 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like I didn't have the personal strength at that time to do it for myself and by myself.
Yeah.
But I think that's good advice too. Plus it gives people in your life, this is to the listener, the opportunity to show up in your life, and you're giving people opportunities to show up in your life, prove things to you, show things to you that maybe haven't been shown to you in the past. So you just never know how God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is working in those situations. And vulnerability and honesty, I think it's the best key.
I do too. I think vulnerability is a superpower now.
Exactly.
Now I do.
Yeah, for sure. So So, dude, let's continue the story. So, Ninja Warrior, all that happened.
So then the final straw was, it was in 2016, and we're going to this country concert, and I wanted to make it a big deal for my parents and my brother, and we're all big Luke Bryan fans. Yeah. So we're like, all right, let's go see Luke Bryan. Like, I'd never seen him. Nobody had ever seen him live in our family. So I rented a limo for the family and like was making it this big deal. Yeah. And we surprised the family. They had no idea they had tickets. I'm just like, just leave this night open or whatever. So, and again, I'm still battling a little bit, but like I'm trying to overcome, but I had resorted back to drinking on weekends and stuff. And it was this big moment that I've been setting up for over a month. And we get in this limo, and I think before we even got in, to your point, Aaron, where you would drift off and do shots, I did that. I think I went back into my parents' house before we got in the limo and ripped a few shots and then ate some gum to make it, so you couldn't smell it. Then get back in the car. I drank a little bit in the limo. Then we get there, and I don't remember Luke Bryan being on stage. I don't remember the ride back. I remember saying to my parents, like, I'm going to drive home. And they're like, no, you're not. Like, we're going to do whatever. We're taking the keys, whatever. So I woke up that next morning, and I just remember I stayed in my parents' house, obviously, that night, walking into the kitchen and like just the look and feel on my parents' face. And it was like, this was supposed to be a great night, a great moment. And I ruined it because of one thing, like drinking. Yeah. And then, you flash back to 2011 and like, I wish I would have stopped then. And I'm like, this is it. I don't care what I need to do. I'm not touching it again. So I think it was July 22nd. July 21st was the concert. July 22nd, 2016 was like the official day that I stopped. Yeah. I mean, I heard the people that mean the most to me, and seeing the look on their face was actually the best thing that could have happened because it was just the final straw. And yeah, it's just kind of been a all out, all in fitness, healthy living since then. Yeah. And I'm an obsessive person. So like when I obsess about something, I go all in. And if it's drinking, I'm all in. And then if it's sobriety and healthy living and speaking and emceeing, I'm going full force, all in.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Like I wish I had a little bit more of that. Like I have to kind of manufacture that drive sometimes.
Oh, okay. I've manufactured it before.
You're full of me. You're all in on this, man.
I mean,
yes, you are. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're lowballing yourself.
You're passionate about. Good Lord, it's just like it's all I think about. It just
I love that. Yeah.
You.
It's a healthy thing consuming it too. That's nice.
It is. Yeah. And I was going to say, man, too, with your parents, like I am going through this phase with my wife right now where, I mean, she was married to me for 7 years while I was drunk. And so now I'm like starting to realize like the damage that it caused. And it's tough, like I kind of had a moment where she said something to me last week and it was really hard to hear it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, like I'm not that person anymore. I don't have to go back to that. I can actually repent from it, lay it down, and never go back to it.
Amen.
So that's awesome, man. So after you decided to get sober, you decided, I'm going all in, healthy living. Obviously, ultra marathon. Was that something that was like?
No, I didn't even know what an ultra marathon was until I think 2020. Actually, when right before 2020. So I ran. I didn't really even have much of a desire to run a full marathon. And then what happened was, I don't know if you remember this story. I'm from Pittsburgh, so we remember it. In October of 2018, there was a shooting at this Tree of Life Jewish synagogue. You remember that? And 11 people got killed. And it was like miles from where I lived at the time. And it's one of those things where like you see a shooting and it's like you feel bad, but it's never going to happen in my town. And then it does. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is happening. And so I didn't know what to do, but I knew I wanted to do something. And I hadn't run a marathon before because I don't think I had a reason why. And now I had a reason why. And the Pittsburgh Marathon is like the best day in Pittsburgh, I think, in my opinion. There's thousands of people come out, 40,000 runners. Wow, and I thought, awesome. Like, what if I run the first marathon I've ever run in honor of the Tree of Life? So I'm Catholic. This happened to a Jewish community. Like, to me, it's like we're all people. It doesn't matter what organization, what you believe in. These are 11 beautiful people that got killed innocent. And so I decided I ran the Pittsburgh Marathon. This is May of 2019 with the 11-pound weight vest on.
Oh, wow.
So it was 1 pound for every victim. And I didn't know it was going to spark this local media thing that started to happen, and they got behind it. And I just remember, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps that, like, I was running this marathon not for me. Like, it wasn't for me at all. It was for my city. It was for, like, love conquers hate was the whole tagline of it. And I felt like, I remember telling a friend the night before, I'm like, I could probably have a broken leg and I'm going to run this marathon. Because it's just it just felt like it's so much bigger than me that it didn't matter what happened out there. I was going to get it done. And I was just telling my fiance this. That was the most emotional finish line. And it was raining the whole day as it normally does in the Pittsburgh Marathon. It was cold, but it's like you didn't feel any of it. It's just like, because it's not about me. It was about something bigger than me. So once I finished that, like talking about obsession, like it was, oh boy, I just knocked off the camera.
Have to edit that out.
I just broke the phone.
Oh, you're good. That's all good.
Right in the middle. I get too animated.
Dude, I love it. I'm the same way.
Yeah. Are we still rolling?
Yeah, dude.
No, we can't edit that. We got to leave that in.
Should we leave
show
it in?
how bad it was? Yeah.
Here, scoop it up.
All right, don't pound the table, Scoletti. All right, we're good.
I love it.
That was really, no, we got to leave that in. We got to leave that in. Okay. Mistakes are staying in. That was my mistake, everybody that's watching.
And I just want you guys to know we've got like 2 computers, a phone.
Yeah.
It's on a tripod. This is an awesome set.
It is amazing. I said it.
Humble beginnings. There we go.
So I'm obsessive person where you finish the first marathon and it's like, well, what can I do now? So 2 weeks later, one of my good buddies said, he's like, there's a Cleveland Marathon. You want to run it? And, people around me are telling me, you just ran one 2 weeks ago. That's unhealthy. And I'm hearing that, I'm like, well, I'm going to go do it now. I'm definitely going to do it. Yeah. So I ran it. I felt great. Like I didn't have 11 pounds on me. So that helped too.
Way easier.
Yeah, it was a lot easier. It was a lot easier. It was a lot faster and it was a lot easier. So I'm like, well, what else is there? And that's when I got into ultra running and like COVID hit. And I did something that I'm proud of, but also not proud of. I was running a marathon a day, and I wanted to see how long I could do it for. And I was raising money for this local cancer organization in Pittsburgh, and I was having people donate money, and then I would run miles based on what they donated.
Yeah.
And I think everybody was so bored, like they're all donating, and I'm like, well, I can start running miles.
Oh my gosh, this is
running
really
all these.
horrible.
So I ran a marathon a day for 3 weeks, for 21 days. And in the process, like good and bad, like I tore my Achilles in like marathon 17, and I kept running because that's just what I do. And I learned a lot. Like I should have stopped knowing the pain was there, but I didn't know how bad the injury was. Yeah. So I learned a lot through that. But I think I also learned we're much more capable, or I know I am. I think we all are. We're much more capable than we think we are. Yeah. Like one marathon was so scary a year prior, and then you're running 10 or 12 in a row. It's like, wow, like we can do a lot more than we think.
Right.
So yeah, the obsession is still on fire now.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it's obviously directed in the right
direction
at this point.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you too, as far as, 2016, you said June 2016 was your last drink. How long after that was the Pittsburgh Marathon?
So yeah, it was July 2016. The Pittsburgh Marathon was May of 2019.
Okay, so a few
like
years.
3 years, yeah.
So in that 3-year period of getting sober, I mean, what did that look like for you? Was that difficult? With a lot of family, good support group?
It was, yeah, that's interesting because I think it was like, I don't know what your guys' journey is, but I think people that knew that I was sober and like eating healthy, and you get a lot of these comments, and I don't think they're ill-willed or anything. I don't know if some people know how much they can hurt at the time, but why don't you just have one, or like, don't you want to have fun? And I'm just thinking, waking up hungover, like that's not fun. That's not fun at all. Yeah. So so that period, like the world record attempts, like that's where that all happened, and I just got obsessed with that. For whatever reason, I'm like, I want to try to set a world record. Can I do it? So there's the guy in the UK, and he had lifted 1 million pounds in like 10 and a half hours or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, well, let's see if I can set this record. So decided to go after that. I should share real quick. I tried to set the world record for most burpees in 8 hours. and I actually got injured attempting it. So I think I want to share the fail. I think failure is fiction, but the attempt was not successful. And I tried it twice, and I hurt my back twice. And I thought, okay, let's not go that direction. What else can we attempt? So there's this record held by this guy in the UK who, also speaking to how amazing people are, I reached out to the guy that had the record, and I didn't expect anything back. And I'm like, I'm thinking about attempting this. Any guidance that you have? I'm like, he's not going to tell me. He emailed me back. I still have the email. Here's what I did. Here's what I ate. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't. I'm like,
are you serious?
Yeah, he responded to me, and I'm like, this is insane.
And then he gave you his whole routine.
Yeah.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah,
that's the whole community, man. Running community, all that.
Yeah, the running community is similar.
Like
yeah.
that,
And then I beat it, and then he beat me right back, which is the amazing part too. He whooped me right
so
back.
he was probably like, "Yeah, go beat it, so I have something to do."
Well, that was his fuck you. Like, here you go.
He did. It was like 5 weeks later. He did it, and I'm like, "Oh man!"
You're like, "Come on, dude."
So he's like, I think he sent me the record. He's like, "You're next," and I'm like, "No, you can have it. Like, I know where this is going."
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just curious what that looked like. So really, it was that transition for you was I'm addicted to alcohol to like, dude, I'm going 100% addicted to health, fitness.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Good for you.
And I think that, I mean, it's an obsession that I've had, and it's still burning brighter than ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it continues to go. And I think to what you guys are doing, I mean, I think it helps, like we were talking about before, my sobriety and my journey to share and help other people. And then it helps hold me accountable. Like,
exactly.
I'm not going to go back to that when I'm speaking about this, especially after the American Ninja Warrior story.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's not going to happen again. That's not going to happen again.
Yeah, fool me once, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, that we don't want to change anybody who you are.
Right.
Okay. We want to improve habits. Like, you don't want to, because I think that's a fear. Okay. Oh man, I'm in this life, right? I'm in this darkness. Okay. It's hard to change who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you, and I can definitely relate, is we're not changing who we are. We're just changing what we do.
Right.
Creatures of habit. I am anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I'm up at a certain time and I do the same thing, you know, but I used to be up at the same time doing the same thing, but instead I was getting up at 5 and going to drink.
Oh yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're all in on something and you're passionate about that, I think that's what we want our people to hear, is have that passion of doing something that you love that makes you feel good. Alcohol makes you feel good while we're drunk, and then we're in the shitty state again.
Yeah.
So is that something that you haven't really changed your habits? You just do a different thing now? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I would say, like, sleep-wise and waking up schedule has shifted. Like, I was never a morning person, or so that's what I told myself, but I think it was because I stayed out late and I wouldn't want to get up in the morning. So that shifted I love mornings now. 4:30 to 8 a.m. That's my favorite time of day. So that did shift. And that's interesting how you say that. You still got up early. Like, I was passed out until like 8 o'clock in the morning.
I worked at a golf course, and we had to be up to make breakfast burritos.
Oh,
so
okay.
I would get up, and
You had to be up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just, get there half hour early to do an
yeah.
order, and I, have drinks or whatever. But I mean, I guess what I'm really trying to say is, how you said, like, addictive personality, right?
Yeah.
We still have that, but we embrace it and we channel it in different ways. Like, we'll still gamble. Like, I feel like that's my one fear is like gambling, right? So we go to blackjack, and I just want to go all in and just go to the ATM 3-4 times, and that kind of scares the shit out of me a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of that healthy edge. We're not drinking, but same thing. So you get my point.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah.
And I was going to say, actually, I've noticed over the last year, like, alcoholics and drug addicts are my favorite people. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and I just feel like because we have to, because our lives rely on it, we are connected to the spiritual plane of life. Whether it's the fabric that connects me to you, right? That gives me goosebumps when you say that thing, or I call it God, whatever you guys want to call it. But it's living for something that's bigger than yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like when you truly find a real purpose in your life, something to live for that's bigger than you and bigger than your surroundings, that's when God really starts to show up in your life. But
no, I totally agree. A quick sidebar on that. Like, when I started speaking, public speaking, and this guy, Chris Johnson, is my mentor, is a great speaker too. He asked me, because I wasn't really doing well in the beginning, and it was because I was horrible at it. He asked me, he's like, do you want to look good when you're speaking? And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
Like, if you're speaking for the audience, like if you're thinking the whole time, I hope I look good, I hope I look good, it's about you. It's not about them. So thank God he said that. And it was tough to hear at the time because I thought I was doing a decent job and I wasn't. But like, as soon as you, to your point, when I made it about the audience and like the whole emceeing thing, that's why I love it. I was telling Mandy, who's the race director, last night, when I get that mic, it's like, it's not me anymore. Like it's how can I help you have a better start and finish line experience? And that's what it is. And to me, it is God, I think, working through me, and it's not me doing it.
Right.
It's just he's using me as his vessel.
Yeah.
But I think, to your point, when it's bigger than you, it's like you're unstoppable.
Dude, it's awesome.
Do whatever you want. Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about spirituality the other day. And I think you asked me a question of like, it's hard, right? Like you want to know, as people, we want to do. And
how I'm struggling with it.
Well,
black
you're
or white.
just,
there's no gray.
Yeah, and it's just like I kind of lost my.
I shouldn't say struggle. I shouldn't say that. As we go through this journey, like I remember you
questioning it. You're questioning, which is good. You should.
Yeah.
It's where you find answers. It's when you find answers. And Anyways, I can't remember what I was going to say. But
it happens to me all the time.
I'm like,
how do you? Okay, we'll back to this really quick. This is my last question for you.
I'm excited.
What is it that keeps you sober? How do you? What do you go through? How do you do it, man? Like for the listeners, like for me, just for quick context, I'm freaking terrified of feeling like I felt back then. So much pain. Anytime anybody asks if I drink, it's not even attractive to me. Well, yeah, like, it's like so painful. I can just see how I feel, and that I know I'd be drunk for 8 months if I had that sip of alcohol or that tiramisu that tastes like amaretto. Like, I know that's where I go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for you, what is it?
No, I think it's very similar. I think it's that fear of, like, if I were to even contemplate it, my head would go straight to the Luke Bryan concert and would go to all these places where it ended. So it would go to relationships, friendships that are gone because of the habits that I had. So I think I would go, and it happened. I went through divorce a few years ago, and there was a moment, and here's full transparency. I had a therapist that was helping me through the divorce and everything. And there was a moment where I was thinking, and I didn't start taking action on it, but I was thinking about going to the liquor store. Like the thought was in my head. And I called her and we had a discussion about it. And I said, and I thought about it, and it was like, if I go, the same thing of looking in the mirror, how does this play out? Okay. Is it really, I get a small bottle and then that's it. And I'm fine the next day. No, like it's going to be this downward trajectory that's going to lead to God knows where. And I didn't want that to happen. So yeah, I think the fear, and then to your point, like Aaron, the habits, like I think the habits that I've instilled now, and this is something that I do that's maybe it's like morbid, but the first thing I look at every morning, I printed this out like a year and a half ago. I printed out like a fake tombstone of myself, and I printed my name, Matthew Scoletti, 1983 - whatever. And it's the first thing. I have it framed in my bedroom, and I look at it every morning, and it's like, when I look at that, okay, I could end tomorrow, it could end it, I don't know. What do I want to do today that could help out somebody else, that can put me in my best shape, my best mindset? And it grounds me in such a way that I think helps me through at least that day. And I'll give you one other thing, because I love this. I have this thing called a smile file. So anytime anyone ever says something good to me about like I got a really nice DM this morning from a guy emceeing, like I emceed him and his dad crossing the finish line. So he DM'd me and said that. I screenshot it on my phone, and I'll eventually print it out and put it in this folder. So That's cool. 2 things I do every morning, I normally do a little 5 a.m. dance party, play a little music. And then I look at this, which is kind of funny. Like I'm listening to a fun song as I'm looking at my tombstone.
You're just getting out of it.
Maybe I should rethink how that's all working. That's awesome. And then I look at one thing from the smile file, and it's like I look at a way that my life has impacted somebody else. And it's like, so cool, how could I not? Why would I not want to live today? What if I can impact somebody else? What if somebody else impacts me? It's the other way around too. So the smile file thing, it happened maybe like 3-4 years ago. And when I go through a difficult time, if I look through a few of those, it's like, even if I got to the point where it's like, why am I even here? Well, read a few of those. Like and we can all do this. We've all impacted, I'm sure, hundreds, if not thousands of people, and maybe a lot you'll never even know you impacted, which I think that happens so much. Like you guys with this podcast, you're probably going to hear a lot of people that say you've helped them, and probably even more that'll never say anything, but you are helping them.
And that's the goal, man. I mean, that's what it's all about.
It's going to happen.
So that's really cool. And I wanted to say, too, because I'm a huge proponent for rehab. And it was simply just because I didn't know how to think, and I think that alcohol, I was just so not confident in the way that I made decisions, when I was younger. And so that was like rehab really kind of gave me the tools that I needed to deal with the anxieties, the stresses, the things like that, and really like simple things of like, hey, just if you're really struggling, go jump in a cold shower. Put cold ice in sensitive parts of it and just shock your brain,
Yeah.
And it's just things I never would have thought about. So I think that's really cool and helpful.
Yeah.
Did you do rehab or that coffee meeting that everybody goes to, or
No.
therapist or what?
Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't really do any of the group therapy or anything. I didn't have a therapist until 2020-ish, like when I was going through divorce. So no, I never really, I didn't go that route. Wow. I mean, but I mean, again, looking back, I probably would have if I thought I wouldn't have been judged for going. Like that was the big fear. How am I going to be judged? How am I going to be judged? Yeah, and I think it may even stem all the way back to high school and like this projection of everything's going perfect for me. So I don't want to make it look like it's now going horrible. Like that was a big fear.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I want that. I mean, I hope we bring this up every single episode for those who are listening the first time. Did you feel judged in AA? Or excuse me, not AA, but when you went to rehab, were you judged?
No, not at all.
No, see, that's the same thing. The first thing I did, my neighbor, when I fell out of the car, wife grabbed my kids, I get sober, get gone. That next day, my neighbor was a couple months into his journey. He brought me to that group meeting. Everybody drinks coffee or whatever.
Okay.
And I just sat in the middle of the room, didn't even know it. And I was listening to all the stories. I was like, man, that's me. Holy cow. Okay, so we're not alone. And there was no judgment. And I think that's important for everybody listening to hear is you're not going to be judged when you go there. You're going to be welcomed. You're going to be embraced. You're going to meet some really cool people. You're going to see some lifers that have been there for 20 years and they never missed a meeting, or a couple people hit and miss. But, but there's different avenues, right?
Absolutely. There's a bunch of different avenues. And
I love that you're sharing that because I'm sitting here thinking, had I heard that at my bottom, if I'd have heard what you just said, Aaron, I may have been like, maybe I should go to a group.
And that's kind of what we're compiling the stories, right? I think it normalizes something that a lot of people deal with.
Yeah.
Alcohol is a disease. Alcoholism is a disease. That's what it's classified as. So if you're dealing with it and you want help, like, stop beating yourself up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really.
I totally agree. And I mean, to the rehab question, I don't know why this hit me when you're talking about the cold plunge. I mean, I love that stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, I also think, and maybe because I love running, but I go run for 4 or 5 miles. Like I think that's, if I need a reset, just go run outside in the park with no headphones on for 4 miles. And it's like, you feel like you can do anything when you get back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like it's like my
meditation.
And
that's what I need. I need to get more into the healthy habit stuff. Like I haven't started that journey yet, but like spending time with you guys, it's starting to motivate me a little bit more.
I like it. Yeah. So we're going to get a commitment on this podcast? What we're going to do?
Oh, gosh. You're going to put me on the hot spot, right?
5K?
5K? Are you serious?
Hardest part.
I don't think I've ran a mile since I was like 18 years old.
Oh, I'm so excited. It's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen now.
Well, we talked about this.
My fat mouth.
We talked about this on Saturday, man. What's the hardest part? It's just tying your shoes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Just tying your shoes, and then you're already up and you're out the door.
All right.
That's the hardest part.
I'll make a commitment. I'll do it.
I haven't ran in forever, dude. I haven't run more than 2 miles since my marathon.
All right. I'll make a commitment.
Oh, this sounds like a commitment from both of you. That's going to happen right now.
I'm going to run around my block before the end of the week. Well, at least
done.
What time? I'll meet you there.
Oh, I like it. We're still recording, right? We're still recording?
Yeah, we're screwed now.
Accountability.
I know. My wife actually just walked in here, too, with my son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were out there. And, hopefully she didn't just hear that.
You know what's rad? Dude, you know what's rad when you spoke on Saturday? How many like families were doing it? I'm doing this because of her. I'm doing this because of her. Wasn't that rad?
Yes,
it was. I didn't expect that. Like
I didn't either.
because when I was bad, Naya was running, my wife.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's stupid. I'm gonna go drink. You know, have fun. And I was like, because more away, I'll speed. I can sneak some shots in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sorry, baby. I love you. I promise. And then it was just cool because I'm like, man, how many families get together, just do healthy, do hard things together?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Renee and I have our things we do together that are tough. It just galvanizes you as a family to do those things. And running and alcoholism goes a long way. There is a runner's high. I don't know what it is. I've never felt it, but
you haven't felt it. You haven't felt the runner's high yet.
No, man, this is terrible. Like I was running.
He's a marathoner. He's ran 28 miles before.
I was running for vets though. That was my whole thing. I was like, I'm gonna do this marathon and then we're gonna do the 22 burpees before I finish. Like that's what got me to that.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm sitting there suffering, I'm like, the vet's life, what they're going through was way harder than me just being tired.
It's bigger than you. Yeah.
And
So
that's
powerful.
It wasn't for anything other than that.
Yeah.
But
All right.
Well, this is awesome. You're running around the block before the end of the week.
All right, I'll do
How
it.
far is the block? Half mile?
Probably.
Okay, good. Yeah, there we go.
We'll just start doing that.
dude, Leadville 100 is like 11 months away. You got this.
He's already got him signed up for 100 miles.
All right, so let's rabbit trails. Gosh, I'm gonna end up like lifting 100 pounds or 150 pounds before we walk out.
I think you definitely will.
So let's get back to your story, dude. So just wrapping up, like where obviously your energy is magnetic. It's like just having you in this room is so much fun. You've done some amazing things in your life. Where are you at today? What's going on today?
So I actually, and this is the timing of this is wild. So there's an event called a Anvil, and it's called a quintuple anvil. So it's a 5 times Ironman distance.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about this.
Yeah,
you just completed this.
Yeah,
correct?
it's a couple weeks ago. Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was brutal. I mean, it was like a 2-year process because I attempted it last year in Virginia, tore my calf on the bike, so I had to. It was the only event I ever quit. I ever stopped. Okay. 450 miles into the bike. You have to bike 560. So I didn't make it. I didn't even make it to the run. So you have to swim 12 miles. You have 4.5 days to do this event. Swim 12 miles, then bike 560 miles, then run 131 miles. And
how do you even get ready for something like that?
So that to your point, like you disappear. You just go run and swim and bike. And this whole year, I've been dating this amazing woman. We're engaged now, and I think this is a whole podcast in itself. But like training for something, no matter what it is, while married and having kids and having a family, like I think it's really hard, and it weighed on us because I'd be gone for 10 hours on a Saturday. Right. So it's the amazing community of, you talk about community, like these people, there's only 5 people in the whole event that I did. And you become great friends with them because you're out there, you see them constantly, like day in and day out, you're pushing, you're biking by each other, and you're doing all these loops. So I finally completed it this year, and I'll give you one quick story. So I'm on the run, and I'm like 70 miles into the run of 131 miles. The guy who is arguably the best endurance athlete on the planet is in the event trying to set the world record for this quint. He's like 40 miles ahead of me and ahead of the second place guy by like 20 miles, who's clearly going to be the fastest, but he's trying to set this record. And my shin, so I have a stress fracture from this event, my left shin, but I mean, that's not bad compared to a torn calf, so I'm okay with it. But this guy, I wore a sandal for the one loop. It was 1 mile loop. So I had a sandal on my left foot and my running shoe on the right, just for one, to try to hobble my way through it and see if it helped my shin out. This guy who was trying to set the world record, his name's Durant, he saw me and he's running, and he's from Poland, so he has an accent and there's a little language barrier there. Sure. And he sees me and he's like, you no shoe. And I said, my shin's hurting. Like, I'm going to put the shoe on when I get back. And he's like, oh, you don't have shoe. Like he thought I was like out of shoes, and I like broke my shoe and I didn't have any more. Yeah. So he's thinking I have to run in the sandal the rest of the race. And he's like, size 11. I don't know how he knew that, but I am size 11. He's like, my wife will get you new pair. Are
you serious?
Yeah. So I'm wearing the shoes now that he gave me out on the course. But here's a guy who took the time as he's trying to break the world record to talk to me for 2 minutes and help out a fellow competitor. I'm in his event. I mean, he knew I wasn't going to beat him, but
Right.
like he's trying to set a record and he stopped to help out somebody else. And I'm just sitting there. You talk about like a smile foul thing. Like he helped save my whole race.
Yeah.
So that's a long way of saying like I finished the event and it was almost like 2 years of training. It was like euphoria mixed with relief of I'm done now.
It's
Like
over,
that part is over. And I think for now it's I'm running the Dopey marathon in Disney. I'm pushing this amazing woman. His name's Natalie in a wheelchair.
Oh,
So for the
cool,
Dopey
man.
challenge in
Yeah.
January. So like I'm trying to heal the stress fracture for that. But I think it's just like enjoying being engaged and like finally taking some time where it's like, let me just help others, MC and speak. And it's not about me. Like for those 2 years, this event, it was about me completing the race. And it's like, it's been a lot of me for that. And I think it's time I want to turn that around and help others with MCing and speaking, and top priority, be engaged and enjoy that process.
That's really cool, man. First of all, I want to say congratulations on
Thanks.
completing your race and on getting engaged, because that was
Thank you.
recent, was it?
Yeah. It was just a couple months ago. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And do you have kids?
No kids.
Okay.
No. Not yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking.
someday.
Yeah, I was thinking. So the next thing, so it's the Quint event that I did, and there's a DECA.
That's
which
what I
is
was going to
10
ask. Yeah.
times.
So what are the distances in that?
So the DECA.
Yeah.
So it's like double what I did. So it's a 24-mile swim, then it's like a 1,120-mile bike, and then you run 262 miles.
How long does that take?
I think you have almost 2 weeks. I think you have 12 days, 13 days, or
And
something.
you just and you have to take that time, the race, and then you figure out, you're like, okay, this is what I'm physically capable of doing, and then kind of figure out like a strategy throughout those 2 weeks.
Kind of, yeah.
Dude,
And there's going to be, you talk about like, it's almost like life happens in that 4-day period. Like you go through these massive highs of like, I can do anything. And then 5 hours later, you might be like, I don't want to be here anymore. And then
That's
it's like,
really
it is like life. It's wild. So the race director and a couple others like, you're going to do the DECA next year. And they thought I was going to say, yeah, right out the gate. And I told them like, I think I have, and I think this is a cool takeaway. I was talking with some guy friends about this. Like, what's your DECA? Like, what's your next big goal? And for me, it's not the DECA. And I told the race director that. I love this guy. It's called Mammoth Endurance Races. If anyone's looking to do it, it's an amazing community of people. And I told him I don't have a desire to do the 10X.
No.
And it's just, I think there's other DECAs, like we said, like the emceeing, speaking, and building a family, that's my DECA now.
Right.
So it's just an obsession in a different direction.
I love that, dude. That's cool. You had your times of drinking. You came out of that. You poured yourself into yourself. You poured yourself into yourself.
Yeah.
With your health and all of that. And now you're kind of coming back and pouring yourself into your family, your community.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
It's just like you guys have said, it just feels so good when you're doing something bigger than you.
Well, and you can feel it. You can feel it. It emanates off you.
Oh, really? You
Oh,
can tell?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude. Like your happiness, your joy, like all of it. It's very palpable.
I appreciate that.
So,
yeah.
Well, dude, I don't know where do you have anything else that you want to add to this?
Yeah, there's something else I want to add to this. Thank you guys for what you're doing, because I really I know that this is going to help not our episode alone, but all of the ones you're doing. I always just think if 4 people listen and do one thing different, and that's the change, then what you're doing and the time you put in, you just change 4 lives. If it's one, like if it's 5,000, whatever the number is, you're going to help somebody.
Yeah.
And I think you're already helping me just seeing other men. And I think as men, sometimes like,
yes,
we hold it in. Like we hold it in.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I agree. Dude, toxic masculinity is a real issue in our society. And my honest, being a real man is standing in front of the people that you love and being like, these are my flaws, and this is what I'm going to do to fix it.
I love that.
It takes way more balls than just be the toughest guy.
You want to be a real man, and you want to be the strongest man in your environment, go do that. Or go ask your wife or your spouse or your kids or whatever, what are the things that you see in my life that I could fix? And then listen. and do it.
That's right. Then you got to shut up and not say anything.
You know, like I opened my fat mouth, and now I got to start training to be a long-term runner. I know, you're kind of making me feel like a little bit of a baby, though.
No, and I was close. My wife asked how Saturday was.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm going to run a half tomorrow. After you were talking all that and like being around everybody, I was like, man, I could wake up and do a half.
Oh, I wish I knew that.
I know.
I was like calling you that day.
I think I was just going to show up without registering. You'd be like, man, is it cool if I just didn't jump in with these guys and run? There it is. I don't know. Instead, I went and lifted and failed.
You got it in. You got after it.
Yeah.
But no, it really means a lot. Like to be able to share with other men that I now look up to in a big way, that I can share these stories, and we don't like when you're sharing your story, when you're both sharing your stories, I don't look down on that. I'm like, wow, like that's amazing. You have that courage to share.
You know, and speaking of spirituality and things like that, it's like sometimes you got to go through that stuff, you know, and failure and fear and all of those things are tools.
Yeah.
You know, they're tools for a new trajectory, you know, to let us know, hey, we're getting a little bit outside the bounds of what's okay here.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I'm trying to teach my kids right now. Don't be afraid to fail. You know, don't be afraid of fear. You know, be courageous.
Yeah.
Do it afraid.
Yeah.
You know, and if you fall down, get back up.
Yeah.
So, and it's just the same. It's all these simple little things that we learn as kids, and we just seem to forget.
No, so that's actually, I think I was talking about this Saturday night. That first quint that I attempted where I tore my calf, I walked away. I thought I was going to feel worse than I did, like in my mindset.
Yeah.
So I walked away thinking, wow, that was my first time that I didn't finish an event. But then I look back and I'm like, I finished those 21 marathons in 21 days. The result, I tore my Achilles and I couldn't run for 14 months.
Right.
So I think I finally smartened up, was like, I stopped before I really did damage to my calf. And I came away with the idea that failure is fiction. Like, I don't even know if it exists. Like, it's just an outcome we don't want. Yeah. I didn't want that outcome. But then I look back, I'm like, the furthest I swam before that, I think, was 3 miles. And I swam 12 in that event. The furthest I biked was 250, and I biked 450. So I got a DNF. I didn't finish, but like I broke my own personal records by like twofold plus.
See, and that's the thing, is like you're competing against yourself.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take it back to alcohol. For you listening, that's you tried. You're not getting sober. You did it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you had your break, and then you went back to drinking.
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah.
Failure is fiction, especially when it comes to alcohol.
You know,
right.
Yeah, I mean, June I had a relapse just this past June. You know, we were in Kansas for 8 days, and there ain't anything to do out there. And found the in-laws stash, and you know, it just happened. But the next morning, I admitted it right away. Felt like crap. But at the same time, I looked at my wife and I was like, you know, we have two choices here. We can either choose to look at this in the negative way of like, oh, I screwed up, and you know, there's that, or we can look at this as like, dude, you've only drank once in 8 months. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's very amazing.
You know,
yeah.
And it's like, one is going to cause me to not get back on the wagon. The other is going to make it easier.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, why not choose to look at things from that perspective and be like, all right, you know what? Yeah, I screwed up, but I learned something, and I'm going to get back and keep going.
I love that.
So, you know,
and I think got out of the darkness, man.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and yeah. So, well, Matt, dude, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come sit here with us and share your story. It's super inspiring.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. Thank you for asking great questions to help get those stories out of me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
What's the name of your podcast, and where can people find it?
Oh, yeah. Average to Savage is the name of the podcast. And they'll find it, and they'll find you two on it very soon.
I'm excited, man. You just let me know when. And
so I think you have to run at least 2 miles to be on the podcast.
All right. I'll be ready to go by next Wednesday.
I know you will. I think you're dead serious.
Dude, honestly, I did. Okay, I'm not even going to say that because that's just an excuse. But no, I'm going to have to go tell my wife, be like, I have to run around the block by the end of the week.
I think it's going to happen. It's done. It's already done.
I made a commitment. So.
Yep.
I'll run it with you if that's what helps.
All right. That sounds good.
You got to send me a photo. Send me a picture. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to let Matt go. Thanks again. And thank you for listening to our podcast. We'll see you next time.